So, should you buy a 2019 and up Toyota RAV4 and RAV4 hybrid? You read all over the internet, there are problems, there are concerns, people are complaining, and that makes you wonder, did Toyota make a mistake with this car? Did their reputation of reliability go down and they're just living off of their past reputation of reliability? Well, hello and welcome to the Car Care channel. My name is AMD. I am a Toyota Master Diagnostic Technician with over a decade of experience, and I was around when the first RAV4 rolled off the truck new from the factory, and then when the first one came in the dealership and we started some problems. But even with that, I still think this is possibly the best RAV4 made. And in this video, I'm going to share with you some of their common problems and, more importantly, how they were fixed. But before we get started, if you're new to the channel, welcome. Consider subscribing to the channel. Check out some of my other videos. If you're a returning subscriber, well, thank you so much for watching another one of my videos. And without further ado, let's dig right into it. Starting with the engine category, all 19 and up RAV4s have one engine. Even the hybrids is a similar engine. It's the A25A Dynamic Force engine. Now, I did do a deep dive in this engine to show you all its technological advancements. I'll leave the link for that series right here. But let's talk about RAV4 specific problems. So the first one, is you will read, is a recall on the engine potentially blowing up and leaving you stranded on the side of the highway, and you'll read words like risk of fire, and that makes people wonder, well, why would I buy a new car that already has a bad engine that's going to blow up? But let's dig deeper into that. So the cars that are the RAV4s that are affected by this recall, the exact number is 30,500. Now that sounds like a big number. However, between 2019 and 2020 models, the ones that are affected, let's take the two model years, Toyota sold almost 1 million units. So first off, that's a small number, but that's okay. That's still a high enough number. But all the ones that I have scanned so far, so we bring them to the dealership, we check the serial number of the engine to see if it's going to blow up or not. Well, I haven't seen one that qualified and said, yes, this one has a bad engine. But even if it does, it's a recall. I don't care if this car has 200, 300,000 miles. It's still affected by the recall and it'll still get fixed for free. This is not a warranty. So folks, if you're wondering about this, this is not an issue. If you're buying a car today from a dealership, from a Toyota dealership, certified, even if you're buying a new one, if you're buying a new one today as of the date of filming this video, you're buying a 2021. It doesn't have this issue. There's a very limited number of these that had a cylinder block that was not made right, and that's unfortunate and that's not okay, but only the affected ones, not all of them. So I don't want you freaking out over this. People seem to just condemn the whole car because of a small number of these that were affected by this issue. Speaking of issues, people have voiced concerns over this engine's reliability other than the recall. They say the 0W16 oil is like water and this engine will not last 100,000 miles. Well, I have some news. We've already seen taxis with over 100,000 miles in a RAV4, just like this one, and running perfectly fine. And in the other cars that have the same engine, 2018 Camry had over 200,000 miles already and runs like the day it rolled off the showroom floor. So I am not concerned about the reliability of this engine at all. One more thing that will bother people with this engine is how loud it is. And folks, it is loud. But I want you to know that this is not a problem. This is a direct injected and port injected engine only. Every time the direct injection will run, this engine will get very loud, and that's a normal characteristics of this engine. It doesn't mean that it's ready to blow up. It just means that's how it is. If this is really something that's going to bother you, then perhaps stick with the older cars, because guess what? All cars are going towards direct injection, and this one actually will not have carbon buildup problems like direct injected engines only, because it has the D4S where it has dual injection. More information on that in my series about this engine. Let's talk about transmissions and all-wheel drive systems. So all RAV4s will have an 8-speed transmission, except the hybrid and the prime. The hybrid and the prime, they have an eCVT transmission that is bulletproof and has 0 issues. The 8-speed transmission. If you stop this video right now and go Google Toyota 8-speed transmission, you're going to get through pages and pages of people complaining and problems and them blowing up, making whining noises. Well, on this generation RAV4, it already had the updated transmission. So the problems with these are almost non-existent. However, this transmission shifts in a weird way. It has 8 speeds, has too many gears, and it's always hunting for gears. Now this issue, if you bought a new one, you're going to notice it a lot more. As you drive this transmission, the computer will adapt to your driving style, and eventually, after say 200-300 miles of driving, a week or two, it's going to improve and it's going to get much better. However, if you just bought a used one and you notice that it's always hunting for gears, jumping left, right, up, down, and you don't want to wait that 2-3 weeks because you just bought a car, spent a small fortune, and you don't want it like that, stop by a Toyota dealership and ask them to reset the transmission memory. Unfortunately, unlike the olden days where you could just unplug the negative terminal of the battery, you can't do this with these because that don't do anything. You need a scan tool to reset the transmission memory. So I'm not worried about the 8-speed reliability, but just know that the way it shifts is the way it's designed to shift. That gear hunting is normal for this. Doesn't mean that there's a problem. Let's talk about the all-wheel drive systems. Now there are 2 all-wheel drive systems in RAV4s. There is the torque vectoring and there is the good old trusty all-wheel drive system that's been around since 2006 in the RAV4s. Let's talk about the torque vectoring. The torque vectoring only comes in adventure and limited trims. It doesn't come in all other trims. So if you're worried about this and you heard about this problem and you're buying a non-limited or non-adventure model, don't worry about it. This doesn't apply to you. Let's talk about the torque vectoring in the limited and adventure. These systems in the early days of this generation RAV4 had a problem where you're coming to a stop and all of a sudden you hear a buzz or groan noise or just a sudden feeling of something engaging and disengaging, like it rocks the whole car. And then as you accelerate from speeds around 20-30 miles an hour, you'll have the same thing, buzz, groan, or an odd engagement feeling. Something is abnormal, you'll feel it immediately. That would be the clutches in the torque vectoring transfer case or the differential. Toyota knew about this problem. They issued a fix and they updated the parts, and most of these cars that had this issue were actually 1,000 to 3,000 mile cars. I really haven't seen high mileage cars with these problems because they were an early build issue, got fixed, got taken care of, and that's that. I highly doubt you will find one rolling down the street with over 60,000 miles where it's out of the factory warranty with this problem, unless it's a customer that never worried about it. They felt it, they heard it, and they just didn't care, which I doubt that's many people. But if you're going to buy a used one, you're going to want to check this. If you feel that in your test drive, and here's the criteria for it: engine fully warmed up, you're in normal driving mode, and you drive 20-30 miles, you're around 20-30 miles an hour, and then you accelerate, you'll feel it, hear it, and then as you come to a stop, you'll also feel it or hear it. So now you know the issue. You can check it if you're buying a used one. If you're buying a 2021 model, this doesn't apply to it because it was already fixed from the factory. Let's talk about body issues. Now, I only have one issue here that brought so many people to the dealership. It is amazing. You drive on the highway, 50-70 miles an hour, your mirror, your side rear view mirrors start shaking. And it really bothers me, and it probably would bother you. The problem with those were the door structure needed a little bit more enforcements to stop them from shaking. So if you notice this problem, if you say you're buying even a new one or you're buying a used one, you feel that there's a fix for that. It's added reinforcement to the door so they won't shake. Again, there are so many people that this will not bother, and they'll drive the car 200,000-300,000 miles, 15-20 years, and they'll never bother them. But if you notice this problem, there's a fix for it. It's a reinforcement kit that goes inside the door and some modifications to the mirror. This is an official repair from Toyota, folks. This is not some, let's rig this thing and move on. No, this is an official repair to fix this from Toyota. So if you had this problem, get it fixed right by your Toyota dealership, and that is, of course, covered by warranty. Let's talk about the electrical category, and this is when at some point during this section my love for the RAV4 will start decreasing a little bit. But let's talk about the small stuff first. So the first one is that brought a herd of these new RAV4s to the dealership the day they were bought is when you shift from park to drive, the doors don't lock, and no matter what setting you change, it still doesn't work. Well, this one was very simple. Just disconnect the battery for over 6 minutes, connect it back, and voila, it worked. That was so simple. And if you have a RAV4 with this problem, don't even waste your time going to the dealership and make an appointment, the whole 9 yards. Of course, you're welcome to do that, but if you want to save your time, just unplug the battery over 6 minutes, plug it back, and there you go. That's fixed. The second issue is, it's actually two issues for one component, for the seats. Another thing is, brand new cars, the seat memory doesn't work. Now, some of these cars, when they were new from the factory, they did not do a certain calibration on the seat. Now, this is not something very difficult. You just need to move the seat all the way one side, all the movements of the seat, do them all the way to the one end and do that all the way to the other end, and the seat memory will start working again. Of course, you can have your dealership do that. Some people don't even use seat memory, and they'll drive this car again 10, 15, 200, 300,000 miles, and they'll never know that this doesn't work. But if you use it and it doesn't save your memory settings, just move your seat, all the possible movements, all the way forward, all the way back, up, down, the backrest, and it'll start working. Another thing with the seat that we started seeing recently actually is when you move the seat back and forth, you hear a very loud creaking and groaning sound. That is the seat motor. For some reason, they've had some issues with those, and you need to actually replace the seat part of the seat frame because the motor doesn't come separate. So if you're buying one of these used, make sure you check that. However, that is not a huge issue because it's only when you move the seat. You're going to set the seat how it is. The motor is not failing. It's just the gears are making that noise, and we've tried to lubricate them, tried to do everything to them. Nothing really fixes it but the updated part that it gets replaced with. So I love the RAV4 so far. All these problems are not huge problems, at least to me. But now my love is going to start slowly fading for it for a little bit. Stay with me there for a second. So people have reported batteries dying prematurely. You leave the car overnight, come back the next day, battery's dead. People come to the dealership, I test the battery, it needs charge, we charge it. Customer takes the car back, okay, maybe you left the light on, whatever the case may be. The second day, same thing, again and again and again and again. And it just became kind of a chronic thing, and people were afraid to drive their cars because now you can't leave the car overnight. Well, the problem is something called a DCM, Data Communications Module. Let me not get into this problem because we're going to talk a little bit more about the DCM, but let me talk about all the problems caused by this one offender. Remote starts. Some of these RAV4s will have factory remote start where you can use your phone to remote start your car, lock and unlock, beautiful thing. Until it doesn't work, which is a lot. I mean, these remote start problems and the app communicating with the car are the kind of problems that makes a Toyota technician take a week off after they're done with it because they're a little bit of a nightmare. All of those problems are caused by one component, DCM, Data Communications Module. And to make a long story short, the DCM is a cell phone. These cars have a cell phone, and in my area in the United States, it actually uses Verizon network. And when it works great, but when it doesn't work, it really doesn't work. And the battery draining problem was actually that guy staying alive and killing the battery overnight. That was resolved by such a simple software update that fixed the issue that was causing this guy to stay high on alert and doesn't want to go to bed. So now it goes to bed and the battery stops dying. Very simple fix. If you have this issue or if you're worried about it, your Toyota dealership can check for the update. And if the car has been updated, that's it. You have no issue. If it hasn't been updated, you'll get it updated and life is good. But that software update does so much more than just the battery issue. It fixes a lot of the DCM problems. You'll have your remote start not working. Your connected service is not working. All kinds of issues. And we have to do so much because when you get this car, you get a free trial with this system. Now, this system works great when you're on the free trial, but the minute you switch to a paid account, everything goes crazy. And the other problem is, when you decide you don't want this, some people feel like, okay, well, this has a GPS tracker, it can track the car. Some people don't feel comfortable about that. Everybody has their own decision, and that's up to every individual. They decline the service completely, where the DCM just shuts off. Nobody can track you because you are disconnected from the network. However, if you have a battery drain problem and you opted out of this service, now comes the problem, because this is not a kind of software that I have on a disk and you put it in the car and life is good. No, this downloads over the air. If you have your services disconnected, well, how am I going to do that? I can't. And you would not believe how complicated it is to reactivate your services. It is, for lack of a better word, a nightmare, because you have to wait 48 hours and hopefully it works. Hopefully. Because now you have Toyota on one side saying everything is fine, and then Verizon on the other side saying everything is fine, and a guy like me is stuck in the middle, no food on my table this week, just wondering, okay, what's going on? And somebody else that's standing right next to me in the middle is you, the consumer, with your car in the shop, and we don't know what's going on. And then all of a sudden, voila, it just starts working, and then it stops again, and then it starts. Folks, if you're buying one of these cars and the remote start from the factory, not the one that's off the remote, the one that's connected service is the top of your list, just understand that when you switch phones and you make big changes, there might be issues with the system. So if you're counting everything on this system, I wouldn't, because when it works great, but when it has a problem, I want you to be patient, because you do not know how complicated the system is, and of course it is problematic. Software updates in the future will hopefully solve some of these complications, but in the meantime, as of the date of filming this video, it's a nightmare. Plain and simple. By the way, did you know that you can use your remote start from the actual remote of the car? You're going to press lock once, press it twice, and hold it on the third time. The lights will start flashing, and then the car will start. Let's talk about the hybrid variant of this generation RAV4. Before we get into the issues that they have, which there is only one, let's talk about the hybrid model itself. Now, the hybrid model is a very good choice, has great gas mileage. They're generally very reliable, just like their previous hybrid variants. However, I want to clarify one thing about the high voltage battery that I get a lot of my viewers asking about. This generation RAV4 came with two possible batteries, either the nickel metal hydride or the lithium ion battery. I want to clarify which car has which. If you have a 2019 RAV4 hybrid, you have a nickel metal hydride battery. That is the only option it came with. If you have a 2020 and up, you could have either or. The base model had a nickel metal hydride battery. Anything other than the base model had a lithium ion battery. Just thought I'd clarify that. And one thing on the battery, hybrid fan filter needs to be serviced. I say this in every single hybrid video that I make. I will leave a link right here for, if you own one, how to maintain that filter and keep it clean. Having said that, let's talk about the one problem that this generation RAV4 hybrid has. You go to the gas station, you fill up your car with gas, and it clicks, the pump clicks. You should never top off your fuel tank, right? If you want to know why, here's a video for that. But you get back in your car, you look at your fuel gauge, and it's not full. And then your distance to empty is incorrect. And then your low fuel warning light comes on way too early. People have not really liked this problem. That problem would make you upset, make me upset. Obviously, it's a very annoying one with a new car. Well, when this problem started happening, it was right around the time when the pandemic hit. And that caused some significant delays in fixing this problem. And that made people so upset. And I'm with them. I understand. Things happen. Usually Toyota is very quick about fixing problems with new cars. Usually a few weeks and we're fixed. We got it fixed and life's good. But this one took a very long time and made people very angry, and they were very loud about it on the internet. So now if you go on the internet and read, you're going to hear about this problem everywhere. But I want you to make the right choice here. This is a great hybrid Toyota. If you don't buy it because of this, you're misinformed, because this issue now has a fix. It's either going to be a fuel gauge calibration, or we're going to replace the fuel sending unit inside the tank by the fuel pump, or we're going to replace the whole fuel tank. And if you have a car that's out of warranty, Toyota actually extended the warranty on this, so it would cover folks that are out of warranty. So don't shy away from this car because of this problem. If you bought one used and it does have that problem, take it to your closest Toyota dealership and they'll take care of you there. And that's it. You'll never hear about this problem again. It's as simple as that. Let's talk briefly about the RAV4 Prime. Now, the RAV4 Prime is an awesome car that had made a lot of buzz on the internet, and respectfully so, because it's such a beautiful car. It has one problem that is surfacing now, and you're going to hear about it more as time goes, but now after watching this video, you're going to know about it. You're going to get a hybrid warning message, and the car might go into safe mode and disable a lot of the features. This issue is caused by some poor ground point contact on the DC to DC converter. Essentially, what the fix is, take the back seat apart, get to the DC-DC converter, and replace 4 bolts. That's it. Very simple, but it might bother people, and I estimate that this problem will start surfacing and people will condemn again the whole car. And there we go, car packed with technology failing because of 4 bolts. It's not a big deal, folks. Things happen. If you know how much technology and how much complication there is in the RAV4 Prime, and if all that complication breaks is fixed by 4 bolts, life is good. So I don't consider that really a problem. It's annoying, but if you have it, there's a trouble code. It's a very simple diagnosis. And replace the bolts with updated parts. You have a better contact point for the ground, and life is good. That's about it for the RAV4 Prime. So there you have it, folks. I hope this video was helpful. I hope it was informative. I hope it helps you make a better decision when you're considering buying these cars, new or used. If you like this video, consider giving it a thumbs up. Consider subscribing to the channel. If you're not a subscriber, check out some of my other videos. And until the next video, may the Lord bless you and keep you, and you have a wonderful day.